Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Ketchadori.
Hello, welcome back to another very special episode. And with me today, I can't wait to introduce my next guest because I know many of you wants to be on this show, wants to come on my show or any other show and become a very important guest. And today you're going to learn how to do exactly that. And with me is my dear friend, Nancy Juetten, who has been helping people like you who wants to be amazing guests, become amazing guests on top show host or shows like ours. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Yeukai. It's great to be here.
You know, I always look back at the first time we met on Clubhouse, and you did a 60-second pitch, which was incredible. You literally knocked it out of the park. And I said immediately, Nancy, I would love for you to come on my podcast. Do you recall that moment?
I recall that moment so vividly. And it was just so exciting to realize that you're such a top podcaster. And in 60 seconds, I grabbed your attention. And since then, I've been teaching hundreds and hundreds of people how to do the same exact pitch, because there was a method to my madness that everyone can learn so that they can, when asked to speak up about what they do and what they have to bring to the party, there's a way to nail it very quickly so you can be the one that gets booked too. And I believe that if more people are empowered to do that, more experts are going to get invited to speak up on stages, live and virtual. They're going to be able to spread their message far and wide. They're going to be able to lasso those listeners to become their clients, their co-collaboration partners, their strategic alliance partners, and so much more. And I think the empowerment that we get by speaking up on live stages like this is incredibly rewarding at this time in our life where many of us have been sheltering in place for the last couple of years.
Indeed. And, by being a great guest, your opportunity, you literally take the lead of your opportunities because you could reach enormous amount of people. So I'm glad that you are here to teach my audience here how to become a great guest. In fact, here's what I've entitled our recording today, our conversation here is how to become a brilliant podcast guest that top hosts like this one can't wait to book on. Did you know that a lot of hosts like myself are constantly looking for brilliant people to interview? And this is one of the easiest way of getting your message out there. And if you want to be on those amazing podcast shows, you want to know how to do just that. And Nancy has been doing this for several years and is here to help you. Nancy, for those who haven't heard your story, I would love for you to share how you ended up doing what you're doing today.
Well, remember the day that the pandemic was announced a couple of years ago? Speakers, experts, and authors who had full calendars of speaking engagements went completely dark. It was like an Etch-a-Sketch got shaken and everybody has a blank calendar. All these people are rolling up, they're wringing their hands wondering what the heck are they going to do? Well, I was right there with them. So I decided to double down on podcast guesting because I knew that I could use my voice and my message and my methods to teach and transform and make a difference for people around the world so that they could book themselves on shows one right after the other. And I decided to do exactly that. And I'm here to tell you that 100 podcasts under my belt personally, I've taught hundreds and hundreds of people how to do the same. And in a time when people had empty calendars, how thrilling it is and how rewarding it is for me to know that because people learned my 6P system and learned the methods and approaches and systems that I teach, that they are getting those results too. And I think that you get to make your own economy in this world if you just roll up your sleeves and get to work and know what to do. And I want to teach as many people how to do that as possible while I'm here to make that flag wave.
You do. I can't wait to talk about those 6 Ps. But before we jump on to do that, I have to tell you that during the pandemic, our listenership quadrupled. And that I knew that podcasting was the way to go. I don't know if I was how prepared for what was to come over the next or the last 2 years, because the number of the downloads, because we had already set the platform up, just went crazy, absolutely crazy. Our downloads here in the UK, just went crazy. I remember in 2019 we were number 3 on Apple iTunes, in the business category section, and fast forward a year later, we were among the top 3% of the most popular podcasts globally out of 2.5 million registered podcasters, which was like, oh my goodness, what is going on here? Well,
congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. What that did for me, Nancy, is it sort of solidified the thought that podcasting is the way to go for any business owner who may want to grow their audience or increase their exposure. And that's why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to either become a host yourself or become a guest in other people's shows. Becoming a guest in other people's shows probably is the fastest way of doing that. And that's why I'm so excited about having you, because you have been showing people how to do this consistently with tremendous results. In fact, my audience will recall we had a lady called Jane here who smashed it. It was incredible here. Who who still is one of your students. That goes on to show how well you do this stuff.
Well, I think when you identify as a great teacher, which that's my aspiration, when I see my students master the methods and welcome the results that were promised and a bag of chips besides, my heart grows 3 times its size. Wow. Because I really am creating a transformation for people. If you can own these skills within your own organization and be able to dial up an audience on demand who can't wait to hear what you have to say, your message can travel globally without you having to leave your house. I heard Jack Canfield, who is the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series and also the author of the Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. He called the new normal post-pandemic the new better, because he said he's a speaker, author, trainer, coach, mastermind leader. He can coach and train all day from his Zoom room with his microphone and his lighting and his backdrop and still be home to have dinner with his wife, walk his dog, connect with his kids. This new normal that we now have is the new better, because people have realized there's so much we can accomplish with a Zoom connection and a microphone. I think the world is forever changed, and people want to learn more. They want to earn more. They want to get access to the best possible experts who can help them solve urgent problems that need relief. And all of that is available to all of us when we tune into our favorite podcasts like yours, Yeukai Business Show being a favorite.
Indeed. And you know what? You've just nailed it right on the top, because when you master the skills we're about to talk about today, truly the world is your oyster. You can be great in person and also virtually. You can help people right where they are, which is truly remarkable. And I'm grateful for people like you. But before we dive on to talk about the 6 Ps, you have an interesting story. In 2008, before that recession, the Great Recession we all know about, you were doing very well, but all of a sudden something happened that changed the trajectory of your business and your life. Would you share that story with my audience today?
I'd be happy to. 2008, they called it the Great Recession, and I thought to myself, what's so great about it? Because at that time, I'm running this boutique publicity agency, and I'm the Wizard of the Oz, standing behind the curtain for Roger Staubach, the football great, Fran Bigelow, Fran's Chocolates, Gene Thompson, Seattle Chocolate Company, and 4 CEOs of 4 community banks. I had this full suite of clients that I was helping to get booked in the major and minor media that mattered for their message. But when the Great Recession happened, it seemed like the whole thing fell apart in a weekend, because all of my clients were trying to hold on for dear life to save their staffs and themselves. And maybe publicity wasn't such a high priority. So here was the rub. My husband and I had just left one home to move into our dream home. We couldn't sell the home that we left, and all of my income evaporated. And my greatest fear was public humiliation, that I wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage because I didn't have any clients to pay the bill. So I call it checking into pity party hotel. What am I going to do? I'm wringing my hands. I have no idea how I'm going to solve the problem. So I had this friend sort of say to me, snap out of it. Nobody writes bios better than you. Why don't you write a book about making bios brilliant for client attraction, speaking, and media interviews? Write this book right away. I dare you to do it. And I think it'll save your bacon. And I didn't have anything better to do. So I wrote this book, Bye Bye Boring Bio. And I went to the local copy place and I had a cover slapped on it. I sent a newsletter to 1,085 people and said, are you struggling trying to attract clients as you've hung out your shingle as an independent business professional? Well, I've got a solution that I think might solve the problem. Why don't you go here to buy it? And I hit send and I said a little prayer and I went out and walked the dog. Wow. And a couple hours later, I came back to my computer and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was like looking at a slot machine at Las Vegas. You have an order. You have an order. You have an order. You have an order. I couldn't believe it. My husband couldn't believe it either, but it was enough money to pay the mortgage. And he said, I don't know what you just did, but can you please do it again? That simple book that solved an urgent problem that was desperately needed a solution at that time saved my bacon at the time that I needed to bring it home. We got to keep the house, and I went on to build products and programs that were bigger than that allowed people to get known and get paid. So the Great Recession was not so great in the moment, but if you can find a blessing and do something about it, you might just rise out of the ashes. And that's kind of what happened to me.
That story, gives hope to a lot of people, perhaps, who are currently experiencing a difficulty. That during that moment of difficulty, if you just be present and open your eyes to the possibility and have friends like yours, people who speak life into you, who sees your potential, who can encourage you to go forward, you could be just moments away from the greatest moments of your life. And I love that story very much. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk about the 6 Ps. For anybody right now who is starting on their journey to be guest, they have a message to share with the audience. How can they get ready to do that in style, in some way that is guaranteed to get a good response, increase their exposure, and of course, their bottom line?
Well, thanks for asking. There are 6 Ps, and I'll count them out for you first to set the context, and then I'll dive in. How does that sound?
Great.
The first P is to prepare. The second one is to position yourself. The third is to prioritize the best avenues for your message to carry. The fourth one is to pitch like it counts, because it does. Then you want to ping pong people back into your ecosystem with an irresistible lead magnet that converts. And why does that matter? So you can profit. So this 6P system, I can break it down for you. But when we talk about P, there's 3 ways to prepare. One is to probably one you're not expecting. It is to believe and behave as if the most important influencer is going to call you tomorrow. That means you have a professional quality microphone on your desk right now. That means that you have lighting that does the best you can do with what God gave you to work with to look your very best. And that means that whatever they see behind you is a favorable reflection of your brand and reputation. I say this mantra every single day and invite my clients and everyone who follows me to do the same thing. Say this with me. My work is worthy of a much wider audience, and my business is worthy of sales beyond expectations. And I'm ready for opportunity before it knocks because it's coming for me.
Wow.
I say that to myself every single day because you start your day believing that, your whole behavior rises up to meet that. And it's like the reticular activating system at work. I'm on the top podcast in Europe with you right now because of that very belief. You can pick the low-hanging fruit and be on the little shows that have 2 listeners, or you can aim high right out of the gate and believe that your messages and story are worth sharing in a much bigger way. Start with your mindset there, and you're going to be on the road to a great outcome. When it comes to preparing yourself, your situation, what are you an expert in? What is your story? What are your hot topics that are so provocative and compelling that a host will say, I'm interested in that, and I can't wait to have that conversation. If you don't have 3 hot topics that are specific, terrific, and dialed in so that the host could logically see how that could make for a great show, then you're not ready to go to the show. And here I am looking at the backdrop of your thing. It's 3 quick and easy ways to scale your coaching business, even if you have no marketing or sales experience. Wow, that's a hot topic. I could see myself having you as a guest on my show talking about that because you've laid it out for me. 3 quick and easy ways to scale your coaching business, even if you have no marketing or sales experience. I'm interested. Let's talk about it. But if you say, I talk about getting unstuck, I talk about mindset and why it matters, these are blah, 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 boring topics that don't set you apart from the next 25 experts that say the same thing. There has to be something about the way you say it and some specificity and juiciness around it that a host would say, wow, even if they'd never met you before.
Indeed. And I can vouch for this. You did this, on that night when we were on Clubhouse. Well, it was nighttime here in UK. It may have been daytime there. And, within 60 seconds, I knew that I need to have Nancy on my show. You certainly were prepared for it. And you live what you talk about. Incredible. And how do you position yourself?
Well, how you position yourself it can be a variety of things. It can be years of experience in the trenches, best-selling books that you've written, having touched and transformed thousands of lives through your particular method, approach, or tool, having taken the stage or shared the stage with luminaries with names that we would recognize. Those are some of the ways you can position yourself. You can also, if you're telling your story, tell your story in a way that is so head-turning that you cannot be ignored. One of my clients, Juetten, her last name is escaping me for the moment. She's been married almost as many times as Elizabeth Taylor and can tell you what mistakes to avoid in marriage and how to finally get it right. That's an interesting show topic.
Exactly. Audience would say, yeah, I want to know that because it's a hot topic.
The normal positioning is yummy and delicious for people who care about credibility and authority. But if you're telling your personal story, how I went from an Orange County housewife to prison life by making the biggest mistake of my life and what I learned from that experience. Wow. I mean, someone who's living at the high life is an Orange County housewife in high society who makes a miserable mistake and ends up in prison. She's got things to talk about so that the tale will be interesting for everyone who's listening. So don't go generic, blah, 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 boring. If it's lackluster, it won't be blockbuster. So try to put some sizzle in the steak.
Indeed.
So that's how you position yourself.
Amazing.
And then you also want to consider the prioritization. Who is your ideal audience to benefit from how you help? What niche audience are you reaching toward? If you're in the business space and you are trying to scale your business from here to there, your audience may be interested to know that if they can't sell another billable hour and live to tell the tale, it's time to scale. And here as our guest is someone who can show you how and the wow right now. I mean, I love to turn a phrase. I'm pretty good at that. But you have to be clear about who your audience is, because if the audience to message match is a mismatch, you as the guest will waste your valuable time talking to an audience that's not interested in what you have to say, and vice versa. You can't sell a Rolex luxury timepiece to a migrant farm worker.
Indeed.
So think about where the right place is for you to be speaking and prioritize those shows where your message is a match. And there are actually a couple of cool hacks here. Did you know that there are actually some podcast guesting matchmaking sites that you can instantly avail yourself to, where you can upload your information onto their portal and be served up perfect opportunities as early as tomorrow morning?
Indeed.
One of them is matchmaker.fm. Another is podmatch.com. And one of my favorite hacks is the podcast guest collaboration site on Facebook that has somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 hosts and guests that are looking to make matches. So if you want to instantly find avenues where you can prioritize places where you could be a great guest, these are 3 good places to start.
I love them. We use all 3 of them, and we also use, I think it is Help a Reporter Out, which is, it also has been popular with guests. I love what you mentioned there, Nancy, because you will be surprised. I've been doing this now for 7 years. That some people, when they just see what we do, that we are among the top 2% of the most popular podcast, they just throw in their media template without looking at our audience. And what my team does is to look at what is on their media kit. Does it match up with what I'm trying to do? If it doesn't add value, say, for example, art. I love art, but my podcast is specifically geared for the business community, entrepreneurs, where we are covering finance, marketing, and human resource leadership, and not art. So it means if you don't take time to look at the audience that you're going after and the host and what the show is about, you end up wasting a lot of time. So I love that, when you talk about positioning and prioritizing, for sure. And I can see that be important, because I deal with that on a regular week by week basis, actually.
I have a little ninja strategy or tip that I think is really important to add here. If you want to be seen, heard, and celebrated on the shows that will make the difference for you, do the host the honor of seeing, hearing, and celebrating the show before you make an ask for yourself.
Absolutely.
That means listening to the show, posting a 5-star review, and saying something specific and terrific about the value that you got from having watched. Then I want you to take a screenshot of that review so that you can send it to the producer or the host and say, I've been binge listening to your show and just listened to episodes 5, 15, and 23 and came away with a boatload of specific knowledge that I needed to know right now. And the reason I'm reaching out is I wanted to share my 5-star review that I posted so you know that I watched. And I also have a bright idea about how I could add value to some of the conversations that you've already started. Are you open to that? When you lead with a 5-star review and you've seen, heard, and celebrated the show before you've made an ask for yourself, you got their attention, because the currency that you are using is the currency that matters to your host.
Absolutely.
Don't just think about yourself. Think about the host and what the host values.
Absolutely. This is the fastest way to get booked on the show. Because especially on this show, I'll talk about my show, if somebody is prepared to promote me in endorse me before I even talk to them, I am prepared to reciprocate the favor that they're showing. Because for us to continue reaching more people, we need more good endorsement, 5-star reviews, and people talking positive about what we are doing. And I couldn't vouch for more than what you've just said. So thanks for pointing that out. Let's talk about the pitch, because that's another area which a lot of people get wrong when they're trying to appear on other people's shows.
One of the biggest mistakes people make with their pitching is they use a template they found on the internet, and they just say, "Dear host, what a great show. I'd like to be a guest."
Yes.
If you have ever been on the receiving end of a message like that, how does it feel to you when they don't even use your name? They don't even demonstrate that they listen to the show. They're just throwing darts.
They will be deleted in no time. In fact, it doesn't even reach me. My team will just say, "Oh, it's one of them who is just looking selfishly for what they want." So I don't even see it. I only get to see, as a host, as a producer, I only get to see what has been approved. And by the way, if you're listening, know this, that most show hosts like myself, have got a team that vet all these, applications before they even come to us. So if you wanted to, make sure you please, the people that I've put in place to support me in this. When you do that is to show them that you are on the same page as us. You want the same thing as we are. Like, we want to add value to our audience. So if you start adding value to me, and then I will believe that you add value to our audience as well.
Well, I have a follow-up comment to that as well, which is, if you're going to pitch, hosts have their own preferences about how they want applicants to submit.
That's right.
If the process is fill out our online form and submit with a click, don't just schlep it together blindly and hope for the best. I want you to fill it out with specific, terrific details about what you have to add to the show, what specific hot topics that you can address on the show that would add value and be interesting to the host and their audience. And then in the place where it says anything more that you want to add, I want you to say, not only will I be a great guest and be well prepared, but I promise to advocate and champion and shop this episode around to my entire social network and everyone I know, so they can get more ears and eyeballs, so that you can benefit to the greatest of extent that I can make that happen for you. When you use the comment section and you say something like that, you immediately go to the top of the line, because you dotted your I's, you crossed your T's, you appreciated the coin of the realm, and you did the right thing. Juxtapose that to someone who says, or an agency that says, my client needs to release their book on this date, and we're trying to pull together a bunch of shows that they can schlep their book, and you're next. Like, yeah, that and the horse that you came in on. Like, that is the fastest path to the delete that I can think of. I'm sure you've had plenty of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You are learning firsthand what works. If you want to use this podcasting platform, you are learning today firsthand what works and what doesn't work. And if you just tweak those few areas we've talked about, you will be head and shoulders above everybody else. You'll be surprised. Very few people actually take time to prepare, to position themselves, to prioritize, and pitch properly. If you put those, maybe 3 or 4 of those things, you increase your chances very, very high. Let's talk about the ping pong.
Well, let me ask you, Yeukai, have you ever had a guest on the show that when you said, what next can our audience do to take a step closer in your direction? And then there's this pregnant pause. And then the guest says, well, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can send me a smoke signal. You can give me a call. Oh, you can also find me in my here, there, and everywhere. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes.
Don't do this, people. Don't do this. My recommendation is to remember that podcasting is one of those mediums where sometimes people are multitasking as they're listening or watching. So when asked to give a specific call to action, give one delicious, intoxicating call to action that's easy to spell, easy to say, and easy to remember. And remember to put some sizzle in the steak. So, for example, if you've liked what you've heard today and know that learning to become the brilliant podcast guest is important to you and urgent for your star on the rise, the one thing I want you to do is go to podcastvisibilitylivelab.com so that you can learn even more at the feet of my wisdom, so you can put these things into action and bring them to life to your expert and bottom line advantage. That's podcastvisibilitylivelab.com. See what I did there? One call to action, juicy details about why you should do it. And hopefully you'll remember that. Podcastvisibilitylivelab.com. One call to action. Do that. We'll be in relationship and I'll be able to support you and anyone else that you know who wants to be a podcast guest superstar.
I love that. While we are at it, do talk about the free classes that you do to help people. And I've had stories, from people who have attended that before they even complete the entire training. They're already being featured on amazing shows across the globe. Would you talk to us about that?
Sure. From time to time, I lead this multi-day virtual training where I guide you specifically through the 6P system and give you daily homework assignments so that you can be in action to create your own podcast guesting success while we're together. And I will guide you to prepare, position, prioritize, ping pong, profit, etc. I'll guide you through all the steps. But what I notice is that people actually book themselves on shows before we're even complete with the training. And it's so intoxicating for people. It's so empowering for people. They didn't realize that it could be broken down into such a system that they could easily implement every single day, that people are hungry for more support and implementation. So that's when people enroll with me in my tuition-based programs, so that I can use my velvet boot of accountability to kick their behind into a whole new gear.
Indeed.
But what I love about this style of training, the way I teach all of my courses, is that I'm not like a high school instructor that stands on the pulpit and asks you to do stuff. I engage you. I give you feedback. I'll tell you, listen, are you coachable? Because that's a pretty blah, 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 lackluster headline. And it would be so much better if, oh, how did you do that? Time in the trenches, people, time in the trenches. But if you want to be seen, heard, and helped over a series of days where you could actually master this and own this so you're never hungry for an audience ever again, if you're en route to 6 figures in your business, the single best thing you can do is learn how to get yourself booked on podcasts so your message can travel the world. You and your assistant should participate in the next Podcast Visibility Live Lab so you can get the magic and start deploying it to your own advantage. And if you want even deeper support, well, of course, deeper support is available. And that's how Jane Duncan Rogers booked herself on 16 shows in 12 weeks. That's how James Hipkin booked himself on 23 shows in 12 weeks. That's how Joanne Richards, that's her name, Joanne Richards, the woman who was married 7 times, almost as many times as Elizabeth Taylor, and lived to tell the tale. I think she's on her 18th, or she's booking herself left and right. Let's put it that way. If you want to learn how to do this, it's fiscally responsible to learn how, so you're never hungry for an audience ever again, and you can use your big resources for other services that you can't more easily learn. This is something easily learnable and deployable right now.
Love that. I love that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you truly want to set yourself apart and be that leader in your industry, in your sphere, you want to learn how to do this podcasting guesting right, visit this specific website, which we're going to put below this recording, and you'll be able to access that. Again, Nancy, give us that website here.
Podcastvisibilitylivelab.com.
Incredible. And also, remember to like this recording here as well and share it with others so we can help many people. Look, one of the reasons, Nancy, I'm just sharing this with you really, that I started this podcasting journey was I wanted other people to come and share their stories and be able to help others. Imagine a situation where when we discover something that works and we share with others what our world will look like. And that's one of the drivers of why we do what we're doing. And by you learning how to do that, you truly can make the world a better place. And so we're grateful for people like Nancy who are out there helping my audience and many people across the world do exactly that. Nancy, we are running out of time here, but this has been tremendous. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
We will certainly love to have you back on the show sometime, to talk about business, because I know you're doing very well in business. Maybe we could learn one or two things that is working for you.
I would be thrilled. Thank you.
Incredible. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for joining us here on the show. And as always, live well, live with passion. Know that the best is yet to come. And I'll be amiss if I don't tell you, if you want to learn how to start, scale, and monetize your podcast, always reach out to our team and they'll be able to help you as well. With that said, talk to you soon. Go enjoy life, enjoy the family and your loved ones while you still have the energy to do so. And God bless and talk to you all very soon. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.